to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two very old friends who love to talk about murder and everything else.
That is right, Cheryl, and welcome back, everybody. Okay, Cheryl, I just have to say, if you're listening to this and it's just come out, it is like the end of November. And I mean past the 15th of November. And you know what that means? That means that when you go into stores right now, everything is decked out in Christmas this and Christmas that. And I have to tell you that the thing that I absolutely, and I've talked about this before, that I used to hate about Christmas was that everything had my name on it. But now I love it. And I love that. I mean, there's sweatshirts, there's ornaments, there's signs, there's placards, there's things you stab into the earth in front of your house. There's shit you hang on the wall. There's garlands and everything has joy on it. And then on top of it, you go into the stores and everyone's listening to songs that have my name. It's like joy to the world and joy, 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 whatever. I don't know if that was really a song. But I have to say that I am down with it. And I officially bought myself from Target a sweatshirt, this blue fluffy sweatshirt that says joy. And I love that it's blue.
Oh,
I can wear it for the rest of the year because it's not red and green.
Right. Is it dark blue, light blue, royal blue, navy blue?
Guys, I'm going to take a picture wearing it and put it up on our lackluster Instagram because I just think it's so much fun. Anyway, I have already added, the other thing I do is I'm not allowed to put out the Christmas things until after Thanksgiving. And I already have 4 Christmas trees on the mantle. I have a front doormat that says Happy Holidays and a back doormat that has little Christmas gnomes. And I already have Christmas candles on the dining room table. And I have a soap dish at the kitchen sink that says Jolly. So I am slowly pulling things out, and it makes me very happy. All the pumpkins have been put away. And we haven't even celebrated Thanksgiving. So I'm here to tell you that I have to go really slow. But in my defense, I opened up the attic where we keep all the decorations and shit. And my sweet husband has already pulled all of the Christmas bins to the door. So he's anticipating it too. So there, and the cat's out of the bag. I'm not the only horrible. Oh, and I've also pulled out all the Christmas.
You're not the only.
I'm not the only like crazy person in the house. So there.
Okay, so I have a question. So the rule was that you weren't supposed to bring it out till after Thanksgiving. So what does the rest of the household have to say about this breach of contract?
One kid is at college, so
But she comes home.
She will, but it'll be too late because it'll be close to Thanksgiving. And the other one hasn't really weighed in with an opinion. So I've been given carte blanche to do whatever I want. So there. Exciting.
Oh gosh.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I have some exciting updates today.
Yeah.
First of all, for those of you who listen to us at different streaming platforms, I'm here to tell you that we are now streaming on Podbean, which is a podcasting platform that I've not talked about before. So if you're not on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible.com, YouTube, Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio, you can head over to Podbean and listen to us there.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that great, cool. Cheryl? You know what?
That's very cool.
The podcasting gods are at work when you and I are sleeping. And also, I'm here to tell you that our male listenership is continuing to go up. We are now at almost 15% of our listeners being men, which is
welcome,
so
men.
Exciting.
That is very exciting. We love all of our women, but we're welcoming all men to come listen to our business.
We are welcome to men. The other update I have is on the Golden Bachelor franchise. It's on the Golden Bachelor episodes we did back, I don't know, in another lifetime. For those of you who've listened or watched the Golden Bachelor, it was Gary Jerry who married Teresa Nist at the end of the Golden Bachelor. A short 3 months after they married, they headed for Splitsville. Teresa Nist was on a podcast hosted by previous Bachelor Nation couple, the Ben and Ashley Almost Famous podcast, and she said that it wasn't just their locations that split them up. She said, quote unquote, you can't really know someone in just 4 weeks. So I just want you guys to know that while I believe that in some very small instances, the Bachelor or Bachelorette franchise could lead to someone meeting someone that they would develop a deeper connection with over time afterwards, you basically get it from the horse's mouth, and that is who can really know someone in 4 weeks?
Exactly.
So as we head into, because this week we're going to be talking about the Bachelorette, the Golden Bachelorette, just keep in mind that you're watching a television show. You are not like, everything on this show. I don't say it's all scripted and rehearsed, but there's a lot of stuff that's basically contrived. So don't watch it and be like, oh, it's so romantic. And if I sound like a total skeptic and curmudgeon, I am. Okay. Cheryl, do you have any updates for us?
I do. And by the time this comes out, there might be more updates. But as it stands right now, I'm very in support of the Menendez brothers being released soon. So I'm not sure if I said this on another episode, but so the LA District Attorney, the former LA District Attorney, George Gascon, has petitioned for their resentencing. So it doesn't mean they would get out immediately, but it could mean that they are resentenced to time served or have a reduced sentence because it was life without parole. But he found that they, there's certain things that you have to meet, certain criteria his team looks at to, release someone early. So I was really happy about that because it went to a judge. It's sitting with a judge right now to decide, but he was not reelected as the LA District Attorney. So there's a new sheriff in town. And from what I'm reading, it's this new sheriff, this new DA, he could rescind that, I guess. So it's kind of a question mark right now, whether I don't know if it's going to stay with the judge. I don't know how this works, but I guess it's in question a little bit because there's a new DA. So he might withdraw the request to resentence. I hope he doesn't, but you never know. You know what else I learned today, Joy?
What?
Actually, I learned it over the last week of listening to the Delphi case, that you can't read you can't believe everything you read. Shocker. But it's true. I'm not going to name the news channels and whatever that I've watched and listened to clips, but they get some of their facts wrong. And that is very disconcerting because I do some of my research or what I put out to the people listening is from what I get from my research. And if my research is not right, I'm sorry. So anyway, that was, very troubling.
That is troubling.
Just little details like this one thing I was listening to, I'm not going to say who and what it was, but I was thinking, that's not right. And then I went and looked it up and listened to other things, and I was like, yeah, you misspoke. But that's a big deal. You're the news.
You'd be a good fact checker. Guys, she's very, very good at this stuff. Anywho, thanks for that update, Cheryl. Rolling on to shout outs. Guys, I have a shout out for season 2 of a podcast that I really am enjoying. It's called The Whore's Bedroom. It's on Spotify. At least that's where I get it. And the girl who does this podcast, she's a sex worker. She's been working in the sex industry for almost 8 years, everything from stripping to camming to porn performing to escorting. And this podcast, a place in her bio, it says, a place for me to share everything from my experiences, both past and present, completely unfiltered. These are the stories and viewpoints you've always wondered about, but never got to hear. Her name is Lucy Huxley, or at least that's her performing name, her porn name. And she calls herself a whore, and she introduces herself at every episode. She says, I'm Lucy Huxley and I'm a whore. And then she talks about her experiences as a paid escort and a sex worker. And I have to tell you that I don't find it salacious and titillating in like a sexy way, because obviously she talks about her job. Some people might find that the case. I find it fascinating and very, very eye-opening. And it shines a light on a profession that a lot of people don't know about. So anyway, that's my shout out. If you guys are looking for podcast recommendations that are fascinating, interesting, that you will learn something new, I want to recommend The Whore's Bedroom. What about you, Cheryl? You got any shout outs?
Wow, mine is so far from that. I have a shout out. First of all, the weather is now beautiful where I live. Beautiful. I feel like a completely new person, a better person, and I can now open my sunroof. So my shout out is to my sunroof. For all you other sunroof lovers, roof. The roof is on fire. Anyway, I love my sunroof. Oh my God, I just love it so much. I love when the air is crisp and has a chill, but it's sunny. And I'm just such a happy camper now, driving around, dodging all the crazy drivers. But I now have my sunroof open. I'm so self-conscious now. You guys, Joy has pointed out that I say some words much differently than she does or the rest of the country does. So now I'm like,
room, when she wants to get out of the room. It's cute. It's different. Everybody has different pronunciations based on where they come from,
Well, anyway.
Carol's also born in a different decade.
Well, shout out to that thing on the top of my car that opens and lets the sun in.
Oh, God. Well, shout out to sunroofs, guys. Roofs. Hey, so this week we have a letter from our listener, and that's from Christine in Arizona. Hey, Christine. Thanks for leaving us a note on our YouTube channel, where you can also listen to this. And thanks for giving us a listen. I know it's small potatoes. We don't have thousands and thousands of listeners on YouTube, but we've got Christine in Arizona. So if you're listening to this, Christine, thanks for giving us a listen. I'll try to keep it clean, because I don't want to hear all my fucks and shits and, all the potty mouth stuff. But just know that even though I can sometimes swear up a blue streak, I am a pretty nice person. All right?
Well,
and I hope you are too.
One response from a Christine is worth 1,000 people.
I thought you were going to say worth 1,000 fucks. Anyway, guys, this week we are headed right back to the part 2 of the Golden Bachelorette. For those of you who hate this franchise, we're here to tell you that we will not be doing any more Bachelorette episodes in the future. I don't care if they're golden. I don't care if they're LGBTQ plus. I don't care if they're gray. I don't care if they're purple. I don't care if they're teenagers. I don't care if they're 100 years old. I don't care if they met on Tinder or Grindr. We're not doing any more bachelorettes or bachelors, right? This is, you can stick a fork in it. This is the very last one. There are 7 guys left, and they are Keith, Chalk, Mark, Jordan, Pascal, Jonathan, and Guy. And it starts out with like Pascal standing in his tidy whities, like ironing or some shit, futzing around with his Prada and his Gucci and his Louis Vuitton and blah, 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 blah. They show, why did they have to show that?
Yeah, I don't know. I did not care for that. It was not my favorite.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was.
It was really weird. Joan goes to meet Trista, who, for those of you who are not familiar with the Bachelorette Nation, Trista Sutter was the first Bachelorette, and she married Ryan Sutter, who was this hot fireman. And I can't remember who the other guy was, but I actually wanted her to pick the other guy, and then she picked the hot fireman. And they kind of led you to believe she was going to pick the other guy. But anyway, they've been married. I know.
That's what they do. And that's what I'm talking about with the editing. You know, how true is all this?
They've been married for donkey's years. And I think they have 2 kids. And one of the last things that they decided was that they were going to pull away from public life. And it's probably the thing that's really saved their relationship is they don't do a lot of public appearances. They pretty much, for the most part, have a normal life. Anyway, she talks to Trista, I guess, about like, you know, where she is in the process. But they also try to like bring up old bachelors and bachelorettes as kind of mentors, which, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Maybe Trista gets a little like, I don't know, royalty check for making an appearance. But anyway, the first one-on-one date is Keith. Now, remember, Keith was the guy who got the first impression rose the night that they all got out of the limo. He's a tall guy. He just okay. She referred to him as a teddy bear. She said he was big as a teddy bear. And I just thought, I don't know. It was interesting.
No, she didn't say big. She didn't say big as. She
said he was a big teddy bear.
Yeah, he just reminded her of teddy.
Anyway, so they pull up to this helicopter. Joan's standing in front of it, and then they get in the helicopter, and you know that this had to have been filmed in the spring because they're flying over all the dry ass parts of California and it's all green. And I'll tell you, as somebody who goes to California almost every single July or August, the state's not green in July or August. So they had to have filmed this in like March. And they go to a winery and they are tasting these wines. And then the couple who is pouring the wine, turns out they've been married for 32 years. And Joan all of a sudden does like a flashback on the fact that she was married to her husband for 32 years. And I don't know. I feel like the closer she gets to picking her guy, the more focused she is on her late husband. What do you think?
I think I texted Joy and I said, if Joan talks about her late husband one more time, I'm throwing the iPad out the window and then going to retrieve it. But
throw it on something soft.
Yes, I'll make sure it lands on something pillowy. I'm sorry, it's obnoxious. You're on a quest to find new love, and all these men are here for you. And I understand understand loss. Okay, I understand that, but she has to drop it at some point, or just keep her thoughts to herself, because that was you talk about putting your foot in your mouth. I felt like it did not land. Not that she wanted it to land in any way, but it was like she just put a wet blanket over a roaring fire. It was just, they said, "Oh, we've been married for 32 years." And she goes, "I was married to my late husband for 32 years." And there was silence. And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." It was, it was so obvious. It was so awkward. So she needs to stop that. I understand that she's never going to forget him. I get that. And she loved her first husband, but you are on a quest now to find someone else. And this is the 5th episode we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's still talking about, it's too much for me. You got to move on. Those thoughts are going to be in her head and her heart, but she, at this point, needs to keep it to herself, or at least find the right times to say it. Right. And I thought that was a very bad time to say it.
Yeah, it was interesting. Also, the other thing is, like, we get it. Like, you're never going to forget about him, and you never should. Like, she has children with him. She had a life with him, but she's literally looking for another person to carry on, like, the second part of her life with. And it's just, I don't know, it's going to be weird if we're going to be talking about that guy for the rest. And also, like, how's that going to go over with the new guy? Like, let's sit around and talk about our late spouses. Just felt weird. I don't know.
It was just really bad timing. It was not appropriate. When she's with the contestants, is that what we classify them as? Contestants? Anyway, when she's with each guy alone, and they're talking about their exes or their late spouses, maybe that's the time. But you're standing in front of these people that are like, "How's the date going?" They know they're on the Bachelorette, and then right. she drops like this bomb. It was just inappropriate. She needs to, oh God, it was too much. I was like, oh man.
Interesting. So anyway, it then cuts to Mark, and he's talking about Denise, his late wife, and Mark is like crying. He says,
"Oh God!" Speaking of late spouses, yeah, as we continue on,
not feeling it, and that, like, he wants to go home. And I will say that, like, I was like, oh, maybe Mark's gonna go home because
that's
he's
what
not
I thought too.
And then they go back to Keith, and he's getting more, like, personal about losing his ex-wife or wife to addiction. And then they talk about addiction, and then there's some kissing. But I have to say the kissing was a little bit weird. So, and then they didn't really go into detail about the addiction. So that left me with some questions. The next date is a group date, and it's everybody but Mark. So you find out that Mark's going to get the next one-on-one date. And remember, he's already talked about, like, how he's not feeling it and he really misses his ex-wife.
Wait, hold on. Can I interject?
Yeah.
They cut to him sitting around the mansion with the other contestants. I'm going to call them contestants until you come up with a better word.
Bachelors.
Yeah, I guess they are bachelors. I like contestants better. And he's sharing that he's not sure if he should be there or whatever. And then he talks about the hummingbird symbol that he and his daughter felt whenever there was a hummingbird around. It was his ex-wife, his late wife, in spirit form or whatever. So he talks about how he saw a hummingbird when he was having doubts about whether he was doing the right thing. And here's the thing. When he said that, Joy, it could have gone either way. I'm thinking, oh, and his wife's going to say, yeah, go with your heart. This is probably not the right time, because he was feeling doubt. But right. he goes on to take it, which I feel like you can take a symbol and make it, kind of tweak it whatever way you want. Because his thing was that he was sitting there contemplating whether he was doing the right thing by pursuing a new love, and a hummingbird was there, and he took that as his wife saying yes. you're doing the right thing. So I just wanted to hit
Yeah.
that.
That's the interesting thing about, like, didn't somebody earlier talk about a butterfly, and the butterfly was the symbol, and I'm like, how odd would it be to see a butterfly flying around in nature? It's like, oh, I saw a bird flying today. When I saw the bird fly, I was like, if there's a hummingbird feeder, there's going to be a hummingbird. Like,
I wonder if the roaches were anyone visiting me.
ooh, I bet it was. Anyway, so the people on the group date, so Keith has had a one-on-one and Mark's gonna have the next one. So it's Chalk, Jordan, Pascal, Jonathan, and Guy. They go bowling. And I have to say that Pascal, you could tell, did not want to put on the bowling shoes, the bowling shirt, because
I don't blame him.
He's too bougie. He's all, it's not Chanel or Prada or Louis Vuitton or Gucci. Also, he had never bowled before, which was kind of surprising.
He was the Charles in this situation.
Right?
Charles had never played kickball.
But I have to say that Jordan was a great bowler. Jonathan was a great bowler. Chalk was a great bowler. But then Chalk starts getting super creepy on Cheryl. Like, he sits next to her, like he owns her. And at one point, it looks like she's moved away from him so that they're not all like, you know, it's like you're on a date with 4-5 dudes. And
it was gross.
A chick that you're all like, you know, swinging your dicks around for, and you're like humping her leg. And at one point, Guy tells him to give everybody time. Because it's like, remember, you're on 5 men's date. You're not on one dude's date. You're on 5 dudes' date. So be respectful of the fact that there's 4 other dudes there that want to also swing their dicks around.
Yeah, it was his posturing too, the way he had his arm on the back of the chair, and poor Joan was all the way at the edge of the bench, so she couldn't go away from him any further.
Fall off. You know what, Cheryl? This is what I think. I think that Chuck is the front runner above and beyond. And I think she likes him and he likes her, and everybody knows it. And I think the producers are trying to, like, you know, tell them to cool their jets, because there's still like 4 episodes left.
No, see, I don't think they would tell them to cool their jets, because I don't know if you ever watched the season that was before it became golden. Remember Claire? She was in her 40s, I think, and it was like, ooh, she's in her 40s, and then she was so hot for, I forgot his name, that they quit in them. They said, we know we want to be together, and so they had to replace her with Tanya, the black girl. Remember, they had to replace.
I don't
Claire.
Know that. I never.
You are a Bachelor fan and you don't know this.
I quit watching for a long time, just like Survivor, because I just got so saturated. You know, I don't watch reality TV anymore.
I'm quitting after this. But I did. So Claire was a very attractive Caucasian lady. She was in her 40s. She wanted to find love, blah, blah, blah. This was before the golden one. So it was like, woo, she's in her 40s, not her 20s or 30s. And there was a very attractive black man. And Dale, I want to say Dale. I could be wrong. But it was like fireworks from the moment he stepped out of the limousine. And they went like a few episodes, and she was like, I don't want to make out with anybody. I don't want to, I already know. So she left. She ran off. She went off into the sunset with this guy. Wow. Of course, they're not together anymore. They're not together anymore. The last time I looked them up.
Oh, of course. That fire burns really hot and burns out really fast.
Really quick. Yeah. And then they got a replacement, very attractive black girl. And she found somebody, and I don't think they're together anymore. This is why I'm
surprise. Okay. I
want to say that I had Chalk as the front runner. He turned me off so much with the way he was acting.
That's what Fiona said.
It was gross. It was gross. It took
he was creepy and acting like proprietary, like he owned her, and she just didn't like it. And I was like, I feel like editing, I feel like they're trying to steer us away from chalk because they have to stretch this out.
Maybe, but I'm with Fiona, and I'm hoping that if it wasn't a case of editing, then he's like off my list. But let's say it's just editing and it just made him look really bad. I mean, whatever the case may be, I hope if she sticks with him that he wasn't what he portrayed, because he turned me off in this last episode.
Anyway. Well, the one-on-one is Mark. And they go on this like amazing yacht. Like it was so nice. Joan's dress is fire. Again, whoever is dressing her for this, whoever is styling her, they are so on fire with their outfits. But they look like they're freezing. And they're also awkwardly quiet, just sitting there, like staring out and watching their hair get windswept. And I realized something, and that is they seem like they're too much alike. Like he's sitting there thinking about Denise and being silent, and she's sitting there being quiet and thinking about John or whatever her husband's name is. And I just felt like there was too much, like, I don't know, like maybe she was waiting for him to say something. He was waiting for her to say something. I also noticed that when she's nervous, she talks really fast. Have you noticed that? The pace at which she speaks picks up. So she goes, and I'm like, what was that? And it's when she gets awkward or nervous. I think the realization for her was, I mean, I don't think it happened right then. I think there was a realization prior. I think that Mark is a really sweet and quiet person. And it's kind of sad because Fiona and I really liked Mark. We wanted him to stick around, but I think he needs somebody who is
younger,
because he was the youngest at 57. Number 2, he needs somebody who is more of a caretaker than Joan and less Barbie-esque than Joan, because Joan is a blonde bombshell. And to me, they just didn't look like a fit.
No, because I think he's too young.
Yeah, he needs a brunette. He needs somebody who's shorter. He needs somebody who's less glam. He just didn't strike me as a real like slick glam kind of guy.
Yeah. You know? Because even though she's only 3 years older than him, which is really not a lot, he just seemed a lot younger.
She's 5 years older.
Oh, why do I keep thinking she's 60?
She's 62. He's 57.
Okay, well, still 5 years.
The new math says it's 5 years.
Shut up. 5 years is not that much either, but it seemed more than that when I look at them. He even looks younger. Yes, his hair is white, but his face is younger. Whatever. They just don't match. They're just not a good match.
They aren't. And that's all. And then I have to tell you, at the rose ceremony, she wears this black leather strapless number that has like lace on the bottom. Cheryl, you haven't talked one time about the stuff she has on, but I gotta say, they must have so much fun styling her. 1, she's built like a Barbie, and 2, she just has the most amazing looking shit that she's wearing through the season. Anyway, so surprise, surprise, Mark goes home. But you know what the bigger surprise was for me? The guys are so torn up. They're like bawling.
Well, like I said, they've created a bond. So
Cheryl, I thought that Pascal was going to tongue kiss him.
Well, he said that he was his best friend. You gotta picture how much time they have, how much downtime they have between times that they're on camera and they're off, right? When somebody else goes on a date, whatever, they're hanging out. They're not with her on camera. And the other thing I have to say about Mark being really reserved is you are on camera. So it's kind of, it's a little uncomfortable to be super open and share a lot of intimate things, I think. But anyway, they're just not the right match. But I just want to tell everybody, she took him aside. So the next day, they're sitting around the pool, the contestants. are sitting around the pool, and she comes and she's like, "Hey, Mark, can I talk to you?" And all the other guys are thinking, "Oh, this is like he came home and said he had a great date. This must be something, important." And it
Right.
was. But she sat him down, and I thought it was great for him that he didn't stand there with the other guys at the rose
Well, and
ceremony
he
thinking,
didn't cry when she said no to him. So you get a feeling like he knew that there just wasn't a connection.
or he just didn't want to cry on
I don't
camera.
know. He seemed like a crier to me. But anyway, the guys that are left at the rose ceremony at the end are Guy, Chalk, Pascal, and Jordan. So Jonathan and Keith go home as well as Mark. And I have to say that I'm not surprised. I was really surprised that Jonathan made it this far. And I know you were glad that Jonathan went home.
Yeah, ever since the shirt incident, I'm out. I was surprised, not because I liked him, but I was surprised that she didn't take Keith and she took Jordan instead. Who are the other two? Chalk and Guy were
Yeah.
shoo-ins, even though
Yep.
I don't like Chalk anymore. Chalk and Guy were shoo-ins, and then it was either Jordan or Keith, and I thought for sure she'd take Keith, only because Jordan is how old? Jordan is the same age as her, I think. I think
Yeah.
he's 62 too.
But he
But
looks
he looks younger.
presents as being very young. Okay. I know this is only episode 5, but I want to ask you, Cheryl, what are your predictions for the final 2?
Okay. I feel like I'm going to say Jordan and Guy, because I think they're trying to fool us into thinking that she really likes
Oh my God. I
Chalk.
picked Chalk
I
and
think
Pascal.
I think the whole thing with
I
Chalk
think
is an editing trick. I
no.
think they're trying to
I
trick
think
us.
she's gonna
And I
pick
think
Chalk at the
Jordan
very
is a
end.
dark horse. I think
Nope.
Jordan is
I
a
think
dark horse.
listen, they've only really shown her like really, really getting it
That's what
on
I
with
mean. That's
Pascal
what I
kissing. And
mean.
then also she has kept him around this long. And then I think she's gonna pick Chalk in the
Oh
very
wait, who's
end.
the final? Who's still there?
Chalk,
Pascal.
Pascal, Guy, and Jordan.
Oh no, I still say.
All
Oh,
right.
maybe Pascal and Guy. Oh my gosh.
Well, guys, you heard it here. At the end of episode 5, those are our predictions. Cheryl picks Guy and Jordan. Joy picks Chalk and Pascal. So stick
That's so
around
funny.
because guess what? We're still going to go through the rest of the episodes. All right. The next episode was episode 6, and that is hometown visits. For those of you who are new to the Bachelor, Bachelorette franchise, that's when they go to all of the different bachelors' houses that are left, and there's 4 left, and they meet their families, their parents, their kids, or whoever has agreed to go on the show. Because remember, sometimes people don't want to be on TV. Remember, so the first house that Joan goes to is Guy's house in Tahoe. And I have to say, what a beautiful, beautiful backyard. You literally could see Lake Tahoe from the backyard.
Mhm.
And they go boating. And again, I know I've said it a million times, but her orange dress is so fire. Both my kid and I have said every step of this show that whoever is styling her is spot on. She always looks amazing. Anyway, they're driving the boat and then they kiss, but I gotta tell you, Cheryl, the kiss felt really stiff to me.
Well, I see. Yes, it did. I totally agree. But you know me, I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt or put myself in their shoes. You're on camera, so, and not so much from her. I feel like an awkwardness from him, but it might be that, you're being filmed or videoed or whatever, and you might not want to, do what Jordan always goes in for the French
Yeah.
kissing. So I think it's your comfort level, but it is very awkward. And to me, it shows who she feels, her body language, like especially with the kissing.
Yeah.
To me, it's telling. I would be shocked if he's picked at the very end, because it seems like there's not a, you have, you're on that same level chemistry wise. I think a kiss says a lot, and you're right. It's very stiff and awkward. It's very awkward to watch.
Yeah, it felt kind of, I don't know. He feels a little robotic. And then also in this episode, I don't know if you noticed, but I got a feeling like he was kind of on the verge of tears for a large part.
Well, it's the Bachelorette. There's got to be crying. Somebody has to do it. His teeth, can I just say this? It's so petty, but his teeth are too white. You guys, when you have if you want to do veneers or caps or whatever, crowns, you got to have a realistic color, because it looks completely fake, and I can't. It's distracting to me whenever he's on camera. Just
he has he has chiclet teeth.
Yeah, it's too white.
Yeah. So his pitch though, even though he seemed overly emotional and he's kind of robotic when he kisses her, his pitch seems really genuine. He said to her, "Take all the time you need." But again, I keep going back to, they're not very physical, for example, with Chalk, and we've talked about this in the past. Chalk has his hand on her leg. She's leaned into him. He's always, every time he pulls her in, like he's got his hands on her ass. And
she's receptive. She's receptive to it. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Guy had really nice kids, but did you notice that all his siblings had G names? Their names were Greer, Glenn, Gary, Guy,
oh my God,
PG, Geronimo, Gonzo, and Gomez.
Oh my God, I did not.
Okay, I threw in some names there that were not part of the family.
I was like, Gomez?
But they were all G names. And I found that really, really interesting. I just have to shout out here my friend Julie, who I was just in New York with last weekend. And the people in her family's names are Julie, Jason, Jonathan. Their dad's name is Jay, but their mom's name is Karen. And I always felt bad, like, why didn't she change her name to Jaren?
Or why didn't they pick K names?
Yeah.
I don't know how that comes about. Yeah, I have no idea. I do know a couple who the woman's name starts with an L, the husband's name starts with an A, and all their kids have names that start with M. Huh. So go figure. Yeah.
Well, anyway, the family, Guy's family seemed super supportive. But I just kept going back to like the lack of intimacy, like the kissing and the touching. And I felt like that was a big tell. Now, I will say that he talks very openly about like his divorce and how difficult that was for him. So, he's probably going to be more guarded, right?
Yeah, you're talking about real substance stuff, and I have a comment that is completely superficial and catty. It's going to sound catty. Yeah, yes, the dress was beautiful, but I felt so uncomfortable when she walked into the house and was sitting with them, because it's one of these keyhole dresses for women out there. You know what that means? In the front, it's like that keyhole. So she was just showing major boob. And I felt super uncomfortable with that, because go back and the other dresses she has after that were covered up there. You can still be sexy.
But Cheryl, listen, I don't have major boob just to start with, because I'm pretty flat chested. So I bought some dresses that are like really plunging in the front, or that you can unbutton. But I'm never going to have major boob because I don't have boobs.
No, it's just, would you wear your plunging neckline to meet your, someone's family for the first time?
Yeah. Especially if I had big old hooters. I'd be like, look at my girls. And I'd be like, here they are.
She's just being funny, you guys. I'm not a prude. I've said this to you several times over the past week, and now I'm starting to feel like, am I not a prude? But it made me very uncomfortable. Take that for what you will.
Hey, if you guys are listening to this and you thought she was showing too much boobage, could you write into murder and everything else at gmail.com and let us know?
Please, please write in.
Love to hear what you thought of her boobs. Anyway, so the second hometown is Pascal, and they go to Chicago, and I have to say her long dress was so beautiful, and they kiss instantly, and there's words of affection, and you really can tell that they have affection for each other. They go to his salon. I gotta say, he's wearing like black on black. He's got all those bracelets on. You go in the salon, everyone's wearing black on black. It was just very classy. You can tell he is a big flirt because he's flirting with like all of the ladies in the salon, and he makes her feel girlish because he's such a flirt and he's such a, you know, je ne sais quoi, just very like, hello ladies, how are you all doing? My name is Pascal. Look at this beautiful woman I'm with, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I mean, the guy has a French accent. He's a hairdresser. Obviously, by the looks of his salon, it's a very like, chic and upper scale, high scale salon. And just that's when you guys was so funny because I texted Joy and I was like, okay, I changed my mind. If I were to pick somebody, I'd pick Pascal. Even though this entire time I was like, no, I wouldn't pick Pascal. Just because the dude has money. I know I am sounding so superficial in this.
She's a prude and she's superficial. All right.
There you go.
But, Cheryl, did you notice that Pascal's son also had as many bracelets on as his dad?
32 bracelets. You guys, if you're not watching this, they're beaded bracelets and they're colorful. Like if he just wore black or something, it might be different. They are every color of the rainbow, and he has like 30 of them on. I might be exaggerating a little bit. And then you meet his son and he has the same thing. And I wonder if
weren't his kids drop dead gorgeous?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And also my daughter also felt the same way about his son.
Yeah.
And also the kids were also wearing black. You could tell they're very, very like fashion forward family.
Yeah, And
I can't believe I just said that.
I wish they had, because I feel like there is something behind the bracelets. I really do. Like it just, whether it's something sentimental, the way it started or whatever, because those are a lot of bracelets.
Yeah, maybe he bought them for his son. I don't know. I have stackable bracelets like that, by the way, but I take them off for different outfits.
Yeah, you don't wear them all, and it's a guy and his son, so it's even more unusual.
I will say that I was touched by the son crying in front of his dad, and both being very vulnerable. And one of the things I've always loved about European parents and their relationship with their children is, at least when I say European, like the families that I know of that I'm close with, I feel like there's a lot of physical like love between. There's comfort in kissing, in hugging, in touching, and in showing emotion. And I feel like with American parents and especially parents and sons, there's not as much comfort in that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell that they had a real strong father-son bond. Very, very strong. Mm-hmm.
Totally. Anywho, she really loved his family too. And also how cute the little grandson saying, "Have you kissed my grandpa?"
Yeah.
That was really cute.
And then she coyly said yes. It was cute.
Yeah, the way she said it was like, "Yeah, I did." And then, but it was just really cute because you can tell she has grandchildren. You can tell she's interacted with that age of children before. So that was really sweet. I will say this. I think that she has to pick someone who has children and grandchildren, because if you pick someone who doesn't, I will say I know someone whose father married after his wife passed away, a woman who had never had children. And so because she'd never had children, she'd also never had her own grandchildren. And learning about how to be a stepmother and learning how to be a step grandparent was a steep learning curve because she didn't have that relationship. But obviously, you're marrying a man with like a bunch of kids and a bunch of grandkids. You're going to be thrust into that situation right away.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. It's a different ball of wax if you've never had your own kids and you're getting together with someone that does. And not just kids, like you said, but grandchildren too. Ooh, that's a lot. So
then the third visit was in Chicago again, which is nice because they were already there for Pascal's visit with Jordan. And we found out that Jordan was Jewish, which I thought was nice and interesting. It reminded me of the Golden Bachelor because remember, the Dirty Dancer was also from Jewish family. And also there's like, religious tradition and like, a strong religious belief that's different than say Christianity. So, being in a relationship with somebody who maybe has like a stronger faith or something that might be a little bit difficult because, some religious people you have to convert in order to marry them.
Oh yeah, no, it's that show. What's that show? I can never think of the title because I don't like the title. What's that TV show we both watched? Or
I don't know. There's so many.
No, the one where she, Kristen Bell, starts falling for a rabbi.
Rabbi. Ooh, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it was good.
Anyway.
Nobody wants this or something like that.
I don't know. It's a title that doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know if you'll remember, but and maybe it doesn't matter, but when in the Golden Bachelor, did it come up sooner that Leslie, because I don't even remember that she was Jewish,
but remember the hometowns, the brother was like, I'm a rabbi or someone is a rabbi and blah, blah, blah. And we're Jewish family. And it like became an issue.
Okay. I see. I was surprised that we only learned it at the hometown for, for Jordan. And I saw that as a big, that's right? Huge. That's or huge, as we like to say. I think Howard Stern says that. Huge without the H. Can anyone explain that to us, why people do that?
Well, Jordan is very youthful and he comes across being very comfortable with himself. He had 2 daughters that were super nice and 3 brothers, and Joan got to meet all of them. And he has great energy. He talked about like having this 10-year wall up because he had a divorce and he really didn't open himself up to dating. But I got to tell you, every time he goes into kiss, he's pulling out the tongue. Yeah. And also, at the very end, it looked like he had like, I don't know, he looked like he had like a pop up and say hello. And it seemed very obvious to me. And I remember because my kid was like, whoa, what's that? And then I talked to you and you're like, yeah, it looked like he was like popping something out. It looked like he got a boner.
Yeah, but I mean, they can't help it, right, guys? You can't help it. It's like when they're getting a massage.
Sorry. He's 61 years old. He can keep the one-eyed snake under control.
Listen, he's probably so proud. He's proud that he's 61 and he's still in good shape, if you know what I mean. He and his brothers are like,
if you guys are watching it and you see it, you need to like write us and let us know. Anyway. So the last visit is in Wichita, Kansas. I got to tell you, I've talked about it in the past. My husband is a veterinarian. When he was looking around to go to vet school, one of the schools he was accepted to, I believe, was in Kansas or something like that. And he flew in and out of Manhattan, or flew in out of somewhere and drove to Manhattan, Kansas, which I believe is where the veterinary school is. And he literally called me and he's like, you will hate it here. And I was like, well, I guess we'll scratch that place off the list. Anyway, so I don't know if Wichita is any different, but she goes to see Chuck, and I have to say that they look so comfortable together.
Yeah.
He gives her a
see each other.
Yeah. And they look like they just fit. He's taller than her and substantially. He's like a head taller than her. And you get the feeling like, I think she's like 5'8" or 5'9". I looked it up at one point. So he's considerably taller than her. Their build, they just look really good together.
Their body language when they haven't seen each other for a while, it's completely different than with anybody else. Yeah.
And I have to say that the pressure was on because Chalk had a group of people there to meet her, a big group, including his ex's father, which I was like, yikes, like that. No pressure, man. No pressure. And then they buried a tree in the memory of her at that event.
I think it's called they planted a tree in her honor.
It's not bury a tree. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, there was lots of crying and they celebrated her life and Joan got to be a part of that and she was teared up. So it did give you this feeling that like maybe, you know, that she was really emotionally invested with Chalk.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big deal to be invited to your mother's, you know, little memorial.
Yeah.
You know, Chalk's mother. Yeah, that was a huge deal. I'm sure she felt really honored and nervous.
But you know what Fiona said to me when we were watching it? She said, watch Chalk every time he's on camera talking, he gets red in the face.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, he's probably, these are people, you know, it's like Jordan with his boner. They can't help it. It's like they're on camera. You know. Okay. Wouldn't it have been worse if he kissed Joan like that and didn't get one? She would be offended. It would be like, nothing, no reaction. Anyway, with Chalk getting red, it's like, I mean, imagine having to talk and do these things and say these things in front of a camera, and you know that millions of people are going to have access to this. I'm sure it's pretty freaking daunting.
Yeah, I'm sure. And also, you know that like everyone's going to be ripping you apart just like we are.
Exactly.
I have to say that at the rose ceremony, I called it. I said she's going to send Jordan packing. And surprise, she sends Jordan packing. She just didn't have the kind of connection that she had with the other three. And also, I'll tell you right now that she's going to send Guy packing. Because while Guy seems like a really nice guy, it's just, I feel like they're just not there yet. So anyway, roaring on to episode 7.
Okay.
And episode 7 starts in LA. Joan has this red dress on. She looks fire again. And then she tells them we're going to the island of Moorea in Tahiti. And I just got to shout out my girlfriend Swaz, who, by the way, was in Tahiti earlier this year on vacation with her family. And she logged in and listened to one of our podcasts, which put French Polynesia on the list as one of the countries that were being listened in. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, Francoise, as much as you hate the Bachelor franchise and the Bachelorette franchise, they did go to French Polynesia.
Oh, so beautiful. It was gorgeous. Oh,
and now remember, there's 10 days between hometown visits and French Polynesia. And I think it's because it takes 10 fucking days to get there. So they get on this gigantic ship. It looks like one of those like Jeff Bezos yachts. And remember, it's Pascal, Guy, and Chalk. First of all, Nancy from The Bachelor, the Golden Bachelor, shows up. And I got to say, she is so cute.
She is so pretty.
Right?
She seems very nice.
They talk about the 3 guys. And I was like, damn, Nancy, how did you get it? Cheryl, you had to let me nominate you because I get to be the Nancy on the boat. So anyway, Guy is the first date and they swim with the sharks. I got to say, I'd be out. If someone said, you guys are going to swim with sharks, I'd be like, nah, not doing it.
Well, even the stingrays. So there were sharks and stingrays. And I was more concerned with the stingray because, you know, Steve Irwin, he was.
Right. And I'm here to tell you that I swam with turtles and stingrays in Puerto Rico.
I know, but a freak accident is a freak accident. That means you have no control over when it's
Well,
going to happen. And
if you're
anyway,
already a freak, then the chances of having a freak accident is lessened. Anyway, I gotta say that Joan and Guy look really good together because they're both really fit, and they showed them
Mhm.
in their bathing suits jumping into the water,
Oh
but
my
there's
God.
no tongue when they kiss. Again, no tongue. Okay?
Yeah, he's very self-conscious, I believe. I
Yeah.
believe that's what's happening.
And
Yeah.
also, they weren't wearing sun hats, and I was getting really nervous that they were both getting skin cancer.
Oh gosh.
I was. They at that age, Cheryl, you need a sun hat, you need
Oh, I
arm
know
arm
it.
covers, and you need a caftan.
Okay, well, I don't go that far, but I always wear a hat.
Next date was chalk. They went riding on these little like dune buggy things, and they're both wearing all white. So that was a huge fail because they're riding through this like red dirt, and
I didn't even.
covered in mud splatters and dirt.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're truly a mom. You're thinking
Oh,
about the laundry.
I'm like, who's got to wash that shit? So anyway, Chalk spends a lot of time talking about losing. He needs reassurance, which really bothered me. But he does make her feel safe. And she keeps saying that he reminds her so much of her ex. And her ex always took charge of everything and made her feel safe and took care of things. Remember, this is the episode where they can go to the fantasy suite. And she already told Guy that she would go to the fantasy suite, but she wouldn't bone him. When it gets to Chalk, she doesn't tell him that she won't bone him. So she's only boning Chalk.
Yeah. Which is not a surprise because of their body language. There's a comfort and an attraction and a chemistry that she doesn't have. It doesn't seem the same with other people.
So anyway, and then they asked Chalk afterward, the producer, like, what did you do? And Chalk's like, a real man doesn't kiss and tell, but we went to Bone Town. You can tell they totally went to Bone Town. And also, if my kid's listening, she'll be like, Mom, stop saying bone.
Bone Town.
The last date is Pascal with the bracelets. And he's talking to Jesse. He's talking to Jesse at the beginning. And he kind of breaks down because he shares that earlier in the year, it's not like 5 years ago. It was like earlier last year, I was dating a woman and I was very in love and we broke up. Then we got back together. Then we broke up. Then we got back together. We broke up. And finally it was like, what are we doing? We're just hurting each other. And you kind of get the feel he really wanted to marry this woman, and
he was
or
very
make a
in
life.
love.
So they take them into like this watery, beachy area. And all of a sudden, and by the way, this is the first time Joan wore an outfit that was not my favorite. And they do this Tahitian dancing, and then they have a bonding ceremony, which I got to tell you looked an awful lot like a wedding.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it was.
And I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if when they're done, they're all, oh, and by the way, you're married. But I have to tell you that my kid said that she felt like she wants to like Pascal more than she does. Like, because Pascal looks so good on paper and he's established and he's well off and he's, attractive and he's romantic, that she's really trying hard with him.
That's a great assessment. My gosh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great observation.
So anyway, Pascal freaks out. He says that the ceremony, he's not ready and it was too triggering for him and he's not ready. And he backs out. He said he's not in love with her. He says he respects her. He likes her a lot. He has genuine feelings for her, but he's not in love with her. He's like, Pascal's done.
I think what made it extra hurtful, because she was hurt when he tells her, is that he said, I've been in love and I know what it feels like. And I'm not in love with you.
Yeah. And I have to say that this is the part that I kind of call bullshit on. They show her tearing up and saying that it really hurts and she doesn't know if this is the right process. And I was like, Joan, You've already been to Bone Town last night with what's his face. You weren't going to go to Bone Town with him anyway because you already gave Guy the "I'm only boning one dude" speech. So you were going to give Pascal the "only boning one guy." I mean, granted, I know they're doing other stuff. I'm sure they're just not doing the upsies downsies.
People are learning a lot on our podcast from our podcast. Everybody knows what upsy downsies are. I thought that was a swing, not the swing, the seesaw for people of a certain age. That's to me what an upsy downsy is. But I'm talking out loud at the Bachelorette because when she's tearing up and she says she feels hurt, and then they have a clip of the next week where she's telling Nancy, "I don't know if I'm lovable." I was like, oh God. So I said out loud, you still have 2 guys. Like, it's not the end of the world. And I think Fiona's right. I think that Joan didn't really, I don't think she was going to end up with him, with Pascal. So,
I think it would have been easier for her to break up with him than it was for him to break up with her.
Nobody wants to be broken up with, especially on national TV.
Exactly.
Well, I do think that was a little bit, I think he could have chosen other words, because to say I've been in love and I know how it feels, I think he could have gone a different route, and it maybe wouldn't have been as bad, but still, I'm yelling at my iPad where I watch it, like, you have 2 other guys. Stop it.
Well, you know what? Hang on to your hats, because guess what's up next is where we get to where they get all the dudes together and they get to bag on Joan. All right, now we're on episode 8, and it's called The Men Tell All, or as I like to call it, the dudes get to bag on Joan. Cheryl, I have to say, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail in this episode. I was pleasantly surprised, again, just like I was in the Golden Bachelorette, by how civil and how lovely these men were and how they just became friends with each other. And what we learn is between the ages of 20 and 60 or 70, we learn how to focus on the things that mean something and avoid infighting, jealousy, petty behaviors, or bullying. And it's so nice to see. And it's so refreshing to have the cattiness and the petty behavior of reality television stripped away for us. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I think that's why I don't like watching. That's actually, I know Survivor is totally off topic, but you got me to watch that, and I watched it for, 10 years or something. And then the cattiness of it made me stop watching. So I really don't like that.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the camaraderie.
Yeah. I was so happy just, to see all the guys together again. They obviously are all good friends now. They probably have text threads. They probably will get together and do little reunions or whatever. And I think it's great. And the other thing is, for a lot of these guys that were eliminated, they've gone on to open themselves up to dating, which was nice to see, because obviously it didn't work out for them with Joan, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't allow themselves to enjoy the company of women after divorces or separations or death, things like that, becoming widowers. I will just talk about a couple of things that stuck out to me. One is Charles got his hair dyed. I'm sorry. Like, I kind of was scratching my head wondering, why wouldn't the show producers have said, you should probably consider dyeing your hair at the beginning of the show? And then, because it was such a stark difference, like he went from being gray to having jet black hair. Come on now.
I know. I mean, jet black.
Yeah.
Jet black. Like I told you, I was nervous that the dye was going to start coming down the side of his forehead.
Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was that Jordan, who was eliminated at the last rose ceremony, was not asked in depth about how he felt or what his, what his heart felt like after being rejected, because he did have a hometown visit, but
Yeah.
he got kicked off. But, when the spotlight was on him, he seemed like a lower key guy. He didn't seem like somebody who felt necessarily that comfortable in front of the camera. And maybe he just opted out and said, I don't want a spotlight placed on me.
I was very surprised because he was one of the hometown guys, and that's getting pretty far. That they didn't ask him, but I think you're right. He just seems more reserved. Also, he, I can imagine he didn't feel comfortable with having to talk about being rejected. Basically,
Right.
that's tough. That's
Yeah.
not for everyone. How would you do on that? Well, first of all, I wouldn't be on the show, but
Right. Me either.
So.
I also will say that at the end, and I know I'm jumping to the end, but remember we're down to 2 now. We're down to Guy and Chalk. They kind of lead you to believe that Chalk's gonna somehow like up and like bolt at the end. And I feel like they're just leading me down a rosy path, because I've been on Team Chalk this whole time, right?
Yeah, they want to keep you in suspense. They're going to edit the clips together to make you think one way. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. So yeah, that's anything that you wanted to mention about this episode, Cheryl?
Well, I was cracking up. I mean, I had a really good laugh when they showed behind the scenes, so stuff that they didn't show on the episodes themselves. And so it was like extras, and I was dying when Pascal did his whole meditation thing and he put face masks. The what do you call it? Like skin, those masks that you do for your skin. He put cucumbers on their eyes and he was going, Joan. And then he had 2 frying pans and he was banging them together like gongs. I just thought that was so fun. I really ended up liking Pascal a lot. Like stuff like that, because he seems so, like, my first impression of him was like, oh, he's just so not uptight, but so, help me with the adjective, like proper. I don't know. And then but he really grew on me. He really, really grew on me. He's got a personality. He's, good looking. I still want to know what those 39 bracelets are about. But so that was hilarious. Oh, and then we have to talk about Kim and the song that he wrote. Did we
Oh yeah, that's actually really that was really fun.
So Kim, he was from the military?
Yeah, he was a captain of a ship in the Navy.
He wrote a song and he wanted all the men to sing it to Joan, and all the guys, they showed a clip from the show. We are the mentioned in the golden season.
It sounded like the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It was like,
it did.
Da, 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 da. I felt like we were listening to like some military marching song.
Well, in the episode, when he was on, there was still a lot of contestants, because that's what I call them. There were still a lot of contestants left. So he went around to all the men and was trying to convince them to sing this song to her. And he even had like gestures, like at one point you point to yourself and then you kiss goodbye at the end. And their faces were cracking me up because they didn't want to do it. And they were so kind. They were like, Kim, this is such a wonderful idea, but it's your song, so you should do it. Right. Really what they wanted to say was, I don't want to sing that friggin' song.
Yeah.
And the only person and I thought it was great that at least one guy sang it with him on that particular episode.
It was Guy.
Yeah, Guy did it. But then they brought out the gay men's chorus
LA
of,
Gay Men's
was
Chorus.
it LA?
Yeah.
LA, yeah. And they
Yeah.
actually sang the song that Kim wrote, but of course they have voices, so they harmonized and they did the gestures that Kim choreographed. And it was such a sweet moment because, it was embarrassing, right, for Kim, because the guys are like, you are not doing the song.
It was
The guys on the show.
adorable.
It was really sweet. He was so tickled, and I felt like that was such a nice moment for him because it was embarrassing, the episode that came out about him writing it, and nobody wanted to do it except Guy. So I felt like it was like a little like high, spotlight for him and a redemption moment where he came out looking good. And yeah, it was just really sweet. So I'm surprised you didn't talk about Joan's dress. What did you think of her dress?
So, okay, I'm just going to say this. There is something that happened in the last 2 years to dresses. And it reminds me of this bathing suit I had when I was 6, where there were holes cut out of the sides and it was like tickle holes. And so people would think, oh, it's fun, I can tickle her. And it's like there's holes in the sides of dresses. There's holes in the fronts of dresses. There's holes in the backs of dresses. And it's like, listen, I don't understand what's happening with the holes. I really don't.
So
Especially,
again,
let's not put the holes in places where shit could fall out. First of all,
exactly.
If you had children, you most likely have loose skin around your belly button and your navel, or the muffin top, which is the little pouch that hangs over your belt area. Also, there's back fat. Also, your boobs, when you get to past a certain age, you don't want that, like, you don't want a nip slip. You don't want shit falling out of the front. I have a couple of dresses that have a nice low neckline, and they're great. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything to look at in the front, but it's great because, that's great. I don't have anything that's going to fall out either. I don't understand something that's cut low and then has holes.
Well, so you guys, it was a plunging neckline, and it's so wide, and it's strapless. I think that's what was making me uncomfortable. Now I'm thinking about it because I'm trying to like assess why it bothered me. And I think it's because it didn't have straps, and it made me very nervous because it was cut to where you could see her. She doesn't necessarily have cleavage because she's, not that big, but you could see part of her breast, and it was strapless. So there was nothing but probably double stick tape. And all I could think of was Nipplegate from Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. But it makes me so uncomfortable. Also, I know I sound like a prude, Joy, but I think at a certain age, you don't do certain things. You just don't. You're not still wearing your tickle hole bathing suit, are you?
No.
So this is what I'm saying. She has a beautiful body. She does not have the muffin top and the back fat.
Stunning. She's stunning.
So there's so much you could do with her, and you don't need to show that much. That's how I feel.
I felt like there's been only one outfit that I didn't like in this whole episode, but the men tell all was the second dress that I didn't like. So just two. Yeah. But for the most part, the stylist on the show, the person who's doing the styling for her, they've been on point.
No, I agree. And the other one you didn't like was the keyhole one. Yep. It's that keyhole, and the strap crosses at the top of the neck. Yeah. And then I hope I'm not coming across as catty. It's not. She's beautiful. I just think you don't do certain things. I used to wear crop tops a lot when I was in my 20s. If I were to do that now, I would be arrested for indecent and, for scarring everybody's eyes who have to look at my belly fat now. But, it's just not necessary. She's a beautiful woman.
All right. And the last episode, Cheryl, The Bachelorette, the final rose. Let's just recap. Ooh. Cheryl said that she thought the last two were going to be who? Jordan and Pascal, right? No.
Yeah, you're right.
Said it was going to be, I said Guy and Tom.
thing I don't gamble. It's a good thing I don't gamble.
Yeah, and I said it was going to be chock all along. And if you haven't watched the final, you're going to want to not listen to this. But no shockers here, guys. Dun dun dun. She picks chalk.
Chock full of nuts.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you this. Okay, first of all, there's not a lot to unpack here. The overwhelming consensus online was how lackluster and almost like unexciting and uninspiring the finale was, because you just got that feeling early on, at least I did, that they had selected each other and they didn't need all the rest of these people there. And so there wasn't, and the other thing is, and I've talked about this in the past with the Golden Bachelor and the Golden Bachelorette, but more so with the Golden Bachelorette. There's no infighting, there's no cattiness, there's no backstabbing, there's no shit talking, because guess what? These people are past that. And so she knows what she wants, she picked what she wants, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah. I have things to say.
All right. Let's hear it.
First of all, I know it's TV, so they have to have some kind of drama. And since it's not between the contestants, then it has to be from the Bachelorette herself. So the episode, doesn't it start off with her crying? Joy said to me, because I watched it first, and Joy goes, I hope there's not a lot of crying. And I'm like, well, it starts off crying. So she's crying, and she's telling, so Nancy shows up at her door and she's like, what's wrong? And Joan's like, I don't feel like I'm lovable. And listen, I really don't want to sound mean, but I'm just going to I
don't want to sound mean, but I am going to be mean.
That's what, whenever someone starts with that means they're going to be super mean, and I'm going to be. She is crying over Pascal, and I love that, and saying, I don't know if I'm lovable. Meanwhile, she has two men that are pining over her who want to get down on one knee and propose to her. And Nancy, I love Nancy. Nancy, I love you. Maybe you'll be the next Golden Bachelorette. She's so pretty. She goes, Joan's crying. She goes, over Pascal? Like, she can't believe, like, you're having this meltdown over Pascal? Because it's like, it's one guy that you didn't even, because Joan said Pascal was very hesitant and reluctant all the way through. And then when they went to hometowns, she finally could see that maybe that's all bullshit. No, you never saw a future with him. So I don't know why you had to do all of this.
Well, I think that they had to ask her some questions to prompt some kind of controversy, or at least to
that's what I'm saying. It was so
in a different direction. So of course they probably asked her, the producers who sits down and asks you questions like, what does it make you feel like at this stage in the game for somebody to pull out? Because let's face it, it's a show where she eliminates them, not where they eliminate her, right?
Right. Yeah. But it's just all TV. And that might have been the point when I texted you and said, I'm so glad this is the last episode. I'm never watching any of these again.
Right.
But can I tell you, and I'm going to be mean, that what's his name? Chalk. Yeah, I'm sure you're a nice man, and I'm sure you have a wonderful family, but he has crazy eyes. When they show him close up.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, go back and watch. When he's looking down, when he tilts his chin down and he's looking at her close up, there's something about his eyes that I am not comfortable with. I don't know what it is. No, you go back and watch. No, he does. I'm telling you.
God.
And I, for one, I want to make a bet. Well, I'm not a betting person, but on how long this lasts. it's we'll do well, we're not going to do an update, but we'll update people when they break up.
Well, okay. I'm just going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't think they're going to break up. And I'm going to also say something fairly controversial, and that is, I feel like when the women pick the men, there is a higher likelihood, and please come for me on this. Please respond. Send us an email, post us a comment on our socials. I feel like when the women choose the men, there's more clarity and there's more more clarity, and they know what they want and they're not fucking around. And I feel like and I'll be totally honest and say this too. Now I'm going to be dishonest, but
Yeah, exactly.
I got to be honest. I felt like Gary Jerry's crying, a lot of it was performative.
No, I don't know.
Why
What
are you
basing?
crying constantly? That just
your
felt so disingenuous to me. Joan was not crying all the time.
Oh, Joy. What is the basis for this this opinion that women are better and they know what they want?
I just think that at the stage where she was and what she was looking for, she just did not feel like she needed to fuck around and date all these dudes. But of course, this is a dating show. So she had to kind of go through the, motions. But I just feel like you didn't feel that way?
Absolutely not. It's the same. So we were rooting for Gary, Jerry, and Teresa, and then it turns out you can't know someone in 4 weeks. Oh, shocker! So I don't care how much Joan knows where she is, and Chuck knows where he is.
Listen.
Wait, hold on. It's the same short amount of time that Joan and Chuck have had the same short amount of time that Gary, Jerry, and Teresa did.
Gary, Jerry.
I don't see any difference. They are going to get to know the person in the next coming weeks, months, however long it takes for them to get on their nerves because one person leaves the cupboard doors open or one person gets obsessed with the stupidest things. They're going to see it. They're going to go out to eat and one person's going to treat the wait staff in a manner that the other doesn't like. They're going to learn these little things in the upcoming days, weeks, months, and we will hear down the line that they are not together. That's my prediction.
Here's what I have to say. And I know it's not a popular opinion, but I feel like this one's going to stick. I really do. I really feel like it's going to stick. And I just feel like she knew right away. Remember, he left and came back for her. When she left Gary, you notice she didn't come back for him because there was nothing there. She wasn't feeling anything. There was no flutter.
No. I have no doubt that they are hot for each other at the time of the show. I mean, now it's been a couple of months or something. I have no doubt that they were hot for each other and thought, this is my soulmate and blah, blah, blah. But time will tell. Time will tell.
Time will tell. You're absolutely right. But you know what, guys? So that's it. That wraps up. And you know what? If there's a wedding, like we said last week, we're not watching it. And if there's a baptism, we're not watching it. If there's a funeral, we're not watching it. Okay, we're done.
No more.
That's it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I promise Cheryl that would be the end of it. Yeah. And so that's our Christmas present to you, Francoise, that you'll never have to sit through another fucking Bachelor or Bachelorette on this podcast. You are welcome.
It's so exciting. Thank you. It's my Christmas gift to me.
Well, you know what Cheryl considers a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That I made you do the Golden Bachelor. You know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That maybe it's not a crime, that we are at time.
Yeah, I think maybe people think that it's not a crime. Thank you for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch managed by Cheryl Yamaguchi. Podcast editing, advertising, and social media managed by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezic. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible.com, Amazon Music, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.